Could Washington D.C. become a state? An end to British lockdown and a dispute over Johnson's non-essential trip to Scotland. This is your TLDR News daily briefing for Thursday the 28th of January. In the first story of the daily briefing today, we go to the US to discuss a bill presented to Congress which aims to make Washington D.C. the 51st state in the Union. This session's bills were introduced to the Senate by Tom Cooper of Delaware, and in the House by Eleanor Holmes Norton, DC's non-voting delegate. Norton says that her bill has over 200 sponsors in the House, indicating broad Democratic support for the measure. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi and House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer have committed to bringing the bill to the floor. Even President Joe Biden has signalled his support for statehood, but this situation isn't all rosy for the Democrats, because even if it gets through the House, in the Senate 60 votes will be required to close debate on the bill, meaning that all Democrats and 10 Republicans would need to support even bringing it to a vote. Even if somehow there is enough support to advance the bill, supporters likely don't have the votes to actually pass it, as there appear to be some Democrats who would vote against it. We'll continue to update you as this dispute plays out, and if you want to know more about the fight for DC and Puerto Rican statehood, then be sure to check out the video we made on the TLDR US channel. It's linked in the description. For the second story today, we move to the UK to discuss the potential end of lockdown. Last night, the Prime Minister hosted a press conference where he informed the public of the government's plans to reopen schools in early March, if the coronavirus situation allows. He made no mention of when other restrictions will be relaxed though. However, it's been revealed by The Telegraph today that the government has a rough schedule of when certain venues will be allowed to reopen. It's important to stress here that this is purely speculation and has not been officially laid out by the government. Nonetheless, The Telegraph has suggested that schools are currently set to reopen on March the 8th. It's been suggested that a month later, in April, non-essential retail could reopen. Then a month after that, in May, pubs and restaurants will be allowed to reopen. It's not been made clear whether this means a reintroduction of the tier system, or whether all of England will relax restrictions at the same time. As this is purely speculation about what the government is currently discussing, it's likely that no actual decisions have been made yet, and all of this depends on the exact nature of the pandemic in March. Regardless, let's all hope that the vaccine rollout continues to be successful so that we can start going back to some semblance of normality in the summer. In the last story of the briefing today, we stay in the UK to discuss the Prime Minister's trip to Scotland. While many of us have been working from home, some people simply haven't been able to. People like plumbers, bus drivers, retail workers, and it seems the Prime Minister. Today, Boris Johnson has travelled to Scotland to try and emphasise the importance of the union of the United Kingdom. The SNP have suggested that this trip is actually due to polling, which demonstrates an increased appetite for Scottish independence, with the Prime Minister's visit in an effort to protect the union. However, the leader of the SNP and First Minister Nicola Sturgeon has also suggested that the trip might not be the best idea from a pandemic perspective. When asked about the Prime Minister's plans to visit Scotland, the First Minister responded that she wasn't ecstatic about it, and suggested that leaders should not travel while restrictions are in place. She pointed out that she herself had refused to visit a vaccination centre in Aberdeen for the same reason. Downing Street has hit back on Sturgeon's criticisms though, making the point that the Prime Minister must be visible and accessible. Even Keir Starmer backed him up, saying that I'm with the Prime Minister on this one. He's the Prime Minister of the UK. It's important that he travels to see what's going on the ground. But what do you think? Should the Prime Minister have visited Scotland today, or should he have stayed in London? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. For those who think the news is too long, be sure to check out tomorrow's daily briefing. Read the newsletter by signing up at tldrnews.co.uk/daily. Listen to the briefing by searching for TLDR News in your podcast app, or watch the briefing over at youtube.com/TLDR Daily.